So instead of going directly to university and starting with that whole path, I took a gap year. Mostly because I needed to get a certain qualification to study at the university I did. And a gap year is by no means something unique. A lot of people do these types of things. But I think my gap year personally, it was very special to me because it gave me time. It gave me an abundance of time, abundance of isolation. It gave me a lot of time to sit at home, reflect, try things, and learn things. And what happened, in my opinion, I think in the last gap year, is that I think I underwent the most growth I've ever gone in my entire life. In just 1 year of being away from school, or being away from people, and just, following self-improvement, because what else you're gonna do? But the cornerstone of everything of the past year or so has been self-development, has been becoming closer to the type of person I want to be. And as I open up a new chapter in my life, which is what's happening, I'm going to college soon, probably in a different country. In fact. I didn't learn the language for nothing. I became someone who I can say is more ready for that, who's more ready for just life in general, and more ready to be successful. So with that being said, I'm not gonna waste your time. 12 things. These are just 12 things that I wrote down, 12 values that I've learned. Not skills like, oh, I learned how to code. There's that as well, but this is more about values and key things that I learned in my gap year that I think helped me to develop as a person. The first thing I've learned is that you have to do things at the right time. Now, I'm not one to regret things, and I don't regret anything, thankfully. But there are times I think where I really should have done this when it was at the right time. I don't think about that all the time because there's always going to be more opportunities. So one of these things is like cold approaching, getting girls, or just improving your social skills. You're at home, you know what you have to do. You have to study German, but you were just at school, admittedly for like half a year because of COVID. We just came out of COVID lockdowns in my last year of school, and I could only really spend maybe the last half the year at school, which isn't a lot of time for someone who probably has the ability to attract girls, at least at a very surface level, but didn't really develop the character to really put themselves out there. And there's no cringy shit like, oh, like the one that got away. There's none of that. But I just kind of wish, for a long time, I wish I just freaking just did that mad thing. I just approach every girl. There weren't a crap ton of attractive girls either, but just go out, get rejected or anything. Just be stupid like that. Because right now I'm at home and I'm most of the time I still get opportunities to do this, and I have been doing this kind of cold approaching thing and developing confidence and not really caring. I really don't care. And it feels great not caring. But I wish I had developed this opportunity where there was more resources, when there was more of an ability to do this, just because you had an excuse to be around a lot of people at a certain amount of time. Now I'm kind of limited to when I get to leave the house, which is not. I can leave the house, but when I do leave the house, because I'm not in I'm not working any special part-time job. I'm not in a club. I had to sacrifice all that type of stuff because I was learning something, so I could literally go to the university I wanted to go. So I was limited to things like driving lessons. Maybe I'd see a girl there and I'd say a nice shirt. I did that once. Or going to the grocery, which you don't really see many valid opportunities in that scenario because it's just a grocery on a Saturday. Going to the beach, that's a good idea as well. If I go to the beach with my family, then I remember the last time I did that, I did a cold approach, kind of. That was my first one. Felt great. But they're just you. On the one hand, I'm glad that I'm starting to do this now, because when I go into a foreign country and I'm not comfortable at speaking to strangers, let alone girls, in my native tongue, what the hell am I gonna do when there's that added layer? Don't get me wrong, I can speak. I can definitely express myself in German, but when there's an added layer of computation of going into a foreign language, it's gonna be sticky. So I'm happy where I am now. I'm happy. Could be better, but I'm just saying it would have been a lot better if I had done this when there was an abundance of people in that tiny, tiny window where I could actually socialize, where there was just an abundance of people to talk to my age who had the same kind of mindset thing going on. Whereas now it's like strangers. So, which is scary. It's scary, which is also good. So yeah, so doing things at the right time. You definitely want to do things at the right time. It's not a deal breaker if you don't do it, because the right time is literally just now. But the right time is now. In fact, yeah, say that. The right time is now. The right time is now. Doing things at the right time, doing the right things at the right time means doing the right things now. But if I had done them earlier, it would have been even more right and even better. Second thing I've learned in my gap year is that it's okay to let go of certain habits or certain things that may or may not add to your identity. So one of the things I've done is just video games. I haven't played a video game since going to my friend's house, which was really fun, maybe October. That was really fun. And I did play video games that day, and it was deliberate because I just wanted to enjoy myself. And I'm not the type of person, I'm not like an evangelical type, like I can relax sometimes, but there hasn't really been any reason for me to play video games in the time I haven't been playing any, because I've just been doing things that are more important to me. And it's unique to video games, but for you can be something else. It can be watching some Netflix show, it could be watching anime. It's okay to let go of certain things at a certain point, and it can be hard. And sometimes quitting is not due to the fact that it's so addictive, because for me personally with video games, it was like they were fun, but after a while it just became such a brain drain, thinking about like the next game I want to be released, or like when I'm gonna get it, how am I gonna balance that with my studies, because I still wanted to do well in German, but I wanted to have fun on my YouTube channel, and the whole thing just became sort of a chore. And I think that was just me maturing. I think that was just me saying, like, I'm 90 now, like this isn't really fun. I don't need to play video games. Like, there's no reason. Like, yeah, I've spent money on this before, but like all the things I've spent money on I use. I've never been the one to be like go on a Steam sale and like just buy games I don't play. Everything I buy I play. I'd say, yeah, I've probably got my money's worth out of it. I can put away now. I got a lot of time. It made me realize a lot of things about myself, about things I need to improve. It's just one less distraction. And that's the main message of this point, is that it's okay to let go of certain things. You know, maybe you've been known to be the person that was into like this one video game at school, and maybe your friends expect you to be down to play every time they're playing, or maybe you're known for just being the anime guy. You just knows a lot of anime. Not me, but just an example. Or maybe you're known for being the one that's like very into football or sports, and the way a lot of people talk to you, it's not like they're using you to learn something, but that's just the way they start conversations with you. So if you lose that part of your knowledge, you lose that part of your personality, if you lose that part of your identity, then you lose almost like a part of yourself. But if you're no longer the one that is watching football and knows everything, then it can be quite scary. But the truth is, it's just worth it. It's just worth it to quit. If you got to a point where it's not fun, I know I'm not getting anything from this, there's no reason to go on. Just stop doing it. Just form a new personality. It's okay to let go of certain things if they're not adding anything to your life, and if they're actively taking things away, then it's worth getting rid of it. The third thing is that no one cares. No one cares. Some people like to kind of take the piss. Some people like to F with you. But the truth is, no one really cares. And this is referring to social situations. I wouldn't say I'm naturally an awkward person, but I can have a tendency to be awkward, especially when I'm talking to people I don't know, or in like certain situations, customer service. For a long time, I was like, how should I navigate this? I don't want to be rude, but I also want to make it clear what I want. And what if they're just like really busy? And like, these are the stupid questions that go through your head. And really and truly, what it comes down to, you don't really have to be nervous, especially if it's like a customer service where you're the customer. Anything like that, you don't have to be nervous in these situations, honestly. There are a couple of things you just need to do. You need to be clear in what you're saying. You need to be respectful. And being respectful doesn't mean being shy. Being respectful just means not being a dickhead, not insulting the person, saying things like good morning, hi, please. This is respect. This isn't you being submissive. This is just respect and manners. But then if you're like, oh, I'm sorry, like, that's stupid. And it just adds to it. These things like good morning, or if you maybe forget to say good morning and someone calls you out, just move on. You know, don't really think about this type of thing. And it all comes back down to neuroticism versus being aware in the moment. And I think the saying "no one cares," for me personally, was a way of telling myself that it's up to me. It's how the situation goes is up to me, my energy, and it simply means that I have full control. No one cares. I care, no one else cares, so let me just behave in this situation in a way that how I want the dynamic to go. And that means I say what I want, I don't take shit, I'm respectful, I have manners, and if I say something and the person says something snarky, I just, sorry, whatever, just move on, just keep it going. Because at the end of the day, you can't live a life where you're just always like trying not to step on anyone's toes. Because some people are just having a bad day. Some people are just, some people just want to F with you. Some people are just not happy with themselves and just want to F with you and take any opportunity to feast on that weakness. But if you present yourself in a way of just like, nah, I don't care. This is what I want. Hi, hello, how are you? Da da da. This is what I want. Can you help me? No? Oh, you're rude? Okay, well, you know, piss off. I don't care. And I'm probably going to do a video on this in the future, but I came up with this concept called the grade 7 mindset versus like the CEO mindset or the headmaster mindset. And it's somewhat similar to all the, you know, alpha versus beta, Jeffrey versus Adonis type concept, but it's a bit more unique. It's a bit more directed towards the mindset that you have and the reasons you act certain ways, because there are a lot of similarities. So a person with a grade 7 mindset is polite because they don't want to step on anybody's toes. They don't want to be called out, and it leads to them being polite but awkward. A CEO mindset, someone with a CEO mindset is polite, but not because they don't want to step on anyone's toes, but because they respect themselves and they demand that respect from other people, which means that they can be respectful, but they can also kind of play around a bit. They can also make more of a human connection with the person if that person is willing. And they're so, I made a list, and there's not enough time in this video. I'll probably do one in the future. I made a whole list of things that I just thinking. When you're in grade, and this is when I say grade 7 mindset, it's me, my own person, the way I used to think in grade 7 up until high school, maybe even up until the end. Obviously, towards the end, it got a lot better, but at the end of the day, it's that same fundamental like scaredy cat kind of mindset. You know, I wouldn't say I have social anxiety, but I just couldn't bother care. You know, I just couldn't bother try and appear overbearing or overstep my boundaries, you know. Whereas now I'm like, well, I think my boundaries are quite fine. I'm just gonna say what I think, and I feel like I'm able to handle conflict. That's the thing. I've never been afraid of conflict, so I don't even know why I had this mindset for a long time. I just thought, okay, if I can stay under the radar, that means less problems, but not really. The people F with you. The fourth thing I've learned is that you have to let go of your ego. So ironically, having an ego actually makes you doubt yourself more, because it gives you something to protect. A lot of the times people have egos, but they never push themselves. They never give themselves something challenging to do because they don't want to damage their ego. If they give themselves something easy to do, or they live inside of their comfort zone, then their ego is never tested and it's preserved. Whereas if someone who just doesn't care, doesn't have an ego, just wants to improve themselves, will always be stepping outside of their comfort zone. They'll put in the work in because they obviously have a fear of failure. Everyone has a fear of failure. But the person with the ego is not going to start to begin with. But whereas a person without the ego, or maybe ego's not a word, but the person who doesn't let their ego control them, the person who has humility, will always step outside of their boundaries. But to avoid failure, they'll just work really hard, and they probably won't fail to begin with. Alright, so it's the next day. My camera's bugging out, so I just decided to do it the next day. So without wasting too much time, let's get back into it. The fifth thing that I learned during my gap year is acceptance commitment training. Now, I've already mentioned this in a previous video, on my video, The Action Gap. And if you want to know the concept a bit better, you should watch that video. If you want to know the concept real well, you should go and read the book. But essentially, it's about from my perspective, the way I interpret it, it's about completely listening to your executive brain. So I don't know if you've heard this concept before, but essentially they're like two brains. Some people say three, but they're like two brains, right? Your lizard brain, which is where all of your your ape hedonistic desires come from, but also all like your instincts, right? So, oh, I'm scared of this, I don't want to do this, that, the other. Whereas your executive brain is purely like goal focused, long term, like it's doing what you exactly know is what you should do, and not what feels like you should do in that moment. And so it's not that your lizard brain is always wrong. Sometimes it's right, but sometimes it's better to still listen to the executive brain. So for example, you could be scared of doing something because you feel like you could be scared of doing some work or cold approaching a girl, and your lizard brain will tell you, well, what if she pepper sprays me? That could happen. That is a true thought. Like, what if I get rejected? But your executive brain would say, you still have to go and do it. Just go and do it. And so the main thing I took from that book was that you have to, when you have situations where you're not sure about something, you have to listen to the thoughts that are helpful, not necessarily the ones that are true. Don't ignore the ones that are true, but listen to what's helpful. Listen to the thoughts that are goal oriented, because your mind will give you tons of thoughts every day, some good, some bad, some helpful, some unhelpful. Listen to the ones that are helpful and are goal oriented. So that's acceptance commitment training. The sixth thing is that becoming frustrated with yourself solves nothing. So it was just a matter of calming down, right? Recognizing the errors that you made and coming up with plans on how you're going to eliminate them. And sometimes you're not going to like what plan you come up with. Sometimes it involves more work and extra things that you didn't really want to do in the first place. But if you want to solve the problem, then you have to do it. So when you F up, stop being frustrated with yourself, stop kicking yourself, just be stoic, just completely assess the situation and move on. Number 7 is simple, be precise and honest. This came mostly from the Jordan Peterson book I read, but it's, if you apply it, it's good. Just like be precise, be very clear on what you say, don't be vague, and then be honest. A lot of people kind of do one or the other. So maybe you're honest, but you're very vague, and the vagueness is how you protect yourself. So in the long run, you can end up lying and saying, no, I actually meant this. If you're dealing with people and people just ask a question, just be honest, just answer the question straight up. And you really can't go wrong in the long run with that. Number 8 is similar to the point about ego, where it says, I've learned I'm not a big of a deal, and it's good to recognize that because it means I can get better. Another simple concept. A lot of us have this ego, and it prevents us from doing things we want to do because we have a fear of failure. But the truth is, just let go of that fear of failure and just do it. Number 9 is the power of routines. A routine is a very powerful thing, and a lot of us, say for example, suffer from things like procrastination. And I think having a routine, having a list of things that you want to do in a day, when you're going to do them, and you kind of do them relatively in the same format every single day, or all the days that you go to work or you do work, is the best way to get rid of procrastination. Because what procrastination is that it's fear of a task that is hard, that is you don't want to do. But by having that routine, it becomes easier. So if you just say, if there's this one thing that you have to do, for example, for me it was writing certain essays. I just hated doing it because it meant I had to think critically, and it's just long. But if you just say, all right, every day I'm just gonna do it. If I write bad, I'm just gonna do it every day. Then eventually it becomes easy, and then you can end up doing more and more and more and pushing yourself and adding more to the routine. But if you're just somebody who just doesn't have any routine and you just go about it how you feel like, then you're gonna get a fraction of the things done, or you're gonna make a fraction of the progress that you could have if you just said, at this point in time I'm gonna do this, at that point I'm gonna do that, and you get the idea. The 10th thing that I've realized is that being unbalanced for a while is good. This is not my original discovery. None of these are, but this one is really like, David Goggins thing, and all like the successful influencer motivational types, Iman, Hamza, Goggins, all of them say this type of thing. It was like, temporarily at least, of being very unbalanced is a good thing. You know, there's only so much you can handle. And sometimes in life, to make real progress, especially in something that has a barrier, you want to kind of put other things to the side and focus on this one thing. And for me, for example, I keep on referring to this, but that's really what I've been doing for the last year. There have been times where, so for example, in January, I just stopped doing YouTube. I stopped doing pretty much everything, honestly. Everything I did on the side while I was preparing for Germany, I just stopped. I just stopped watching YouTube certain videos in English, just only watch German, and I just did that up until the exam. And I really think it made a difference in the performance, because that level of immersion. And at first it was long, but eventually you get used to it. It only takes maybe a couple of days, maybe a week to really get a habit going, to really drive in a habit that otherwise would be very hard to manage. The 11th thing that I've learned, and this is ironic based on the tone of this video, but the 11th thing that I've learned is that I don't know anything. I'm 19, turning 20, and I'm making self-improvement videos. It's a bit ironic because I haven't really experienced life yet. I haven't moved out of parents' house. I haven't even gone to university. And there are so many things that I realize, I'm realizing I don't know that much. I don't know that much, and not even in terms of just compared to other people my age, but just in general. And yeah, I guess it's humility on one hand, but it's also just a positive thing. It's like excitement. It's like, I'm gonna learn so much because I'm willing to learn, and I want to learn these things going through the rest of my life. So I don't know anything. Whatever I say, I do believe. I try to be realistic. I try to speak within my realm of knowledge on this channel. And so everything I've said is something I've seen personally in my life. I don't say something that I don't believe or I haven't experienced or see the benefits of personally. And one of the things I want to do is I want to experience more so I can talk about more. Because if you've experienced more things, then you could just talk about more things, and I think you just become a more interesting person. The last thing, the 12th thing that I've learned in my gap year that I'll mention in this video, is that you should always aim for something that is above what you need. A lot of us have this, again, it goes back to the ego thing. It goes back to the fear of failure and not even going about it in the first place. A lot of us set things and we set goals for ourselves, but we set these goals so low or low enough that we know that we can get them, and then maybe we get into 80% of that and we're a little bit disappointed, or maybe we're not, we feel alright. But I think it's always better to aim above what you need. Aim for something extra, so if you fall short, it's still very good. Whereas if you aim for just the bare minimum and you put in the work you think you need for the bare minimum, you probably will end up with something slightly below that mark. For example, in German, I wanted TDN 5. I was training for TDN 5 in everything, although I only needed TDN 4 in all of them. Sorry, TDN 4 is like a B, TDN 5 is like an A. I only needed TDN 4 in all exam modules. But I said, no, I want TDN 5. I'm training for TDN 5, and I kind of drilled it into my mind that I needed TDN 5 in everything. I didn't get that, but I'm not disappointed because I got TDN 5 in 2 things and TDN 4. What if I had just said, okay, I just need to get to TDN 4? Then I probably would have gotten to TDN 3. And that means that I would have probably have to sit maybe have to do the exam over again, or I would have to, I don't know, do a language course. And it would have just extended the time, you know, and I just wasn't about that. So aim for above that what you need. Aim for something unrealistic, something really good, something, well, are you sure you're ready to do that? Okay, you know. People raise their eyebrows like, okay, I mean, if that's what you think you can do, that's what you want to aim for. With that being said, that concludes the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I think for my next video I'll go more in depth, or in a future video I'll go more in depth in the grade 7 mindset versus like the headmaster or the CEO mindset, which is not Jeffrey and Adonis. It's not the same thing. Okay, it's different. it's different. So thank you for watching. Subscribe, go scroll down, subscribe, comment, share if you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.